Have you ever been stabbed in the back by someone you trusted? Well, that's exactly what happened to me. My sister-in-law framed me for running an illegal Airbnb, and her lies got me evicted from my own apartment. I was furious, heartbroken, and determined to make things right. Losing my home was devastating. I had to crash on a friend's couch all because of a lie. But I wasn't going to let them win. I hired a lawyer, gathered evidence, and took the HOA to court. It was a tough fight, but in the end, justice prevailed. And the best part? I didn't just win the case. I exposed my sister-in-law's lies for everyone to see. This isn't just a story of betrayal. It's a story of how I fought back and got my revenge. If you've ever been wronged by a family member, you'll want to hear this. Like the video if you've been there, and comment below, would you forgive or get revenge like I did? Stick around to find out how I turned the tables. Before I get into the mess that turned my life upside down, let me take you back to how it all began. For years, I'd been living alone in a cozy apartment in a peaceful complex. It was my little haven, stable, quiet, and just the way I liked it. The building was surrounded by neat gardens, and the neighbors kept to themselves, which suited me perfectly. I'd put effort into making the place my own, with simple furniture and a few personal touches that made it feel warm and welcoming. Being on my own had always been my preference. I thrived in the calm independence it offered. That all shifted when my brother and his wife, my sister-in-law, moved into the same complex. At first, I thought it might be nice to have family nearby. She came across as polite, even friendly, when they settled in. But it didn't take long for me to notice something off. She had this habit of slipping little digs into our conversations, always wrapped in a smile or a laugh, so I couldn't call her out on it. She'd say things like, "Oh, it must be so easy living alone, no one to bother you," or, "Your place is so quiet, don't you ever get lonely?" Once, she even smirked and said my plants looked neglected, as if I wasn't capable of keeping them alive. These comments were small, but they piled up, and I could feel the sting behind them. They made me second-guess my own space, my own choices. What I didn't catch on to right away was how cozy she'd gotten with the Homeowners Association, or HOA. This place had a strict one, rules about everything from noise to parking spots, and she wasted no time charming its members. I'd see her chatting with the HOA president in the lobby or laughing with board members by the mailboxes. They'd glance my way sometimes, and I'd wonder what she was saying about me. It wasn't just casual neighbor talk. She was building something with them, a connection I didn't understand until later. Then there was my schedule. My job had me traveling a lot, sometimes a few days, sometimes a whole week, leaving my apartment empty more often than not. I'd ask a neighbor to peek in now and then, water my plants, grab the mail. It never felt like a big deal. I liked my work, and I trusted things would be fine while I was gone. But looking back, those trips were the cracks she needed. My absence gave her the perfect opening to meddle, and I was too busy to see it coming. That's where the real trouble started. But I'll save that part for later. I stepped off the plane after a grueling week-long business trip, my shoulders aching from lugging around a laptop and a suitcase full of wrinkled clothes. All I wanted was to collapse into my own bed, surrounded by the familiar quiet of my apartment. The moment I walked through the door, though, something felt off. My eyes landed on a thick envelope sitting on the kitchen table, stamped with the HOA's logo in bold, accusing red ink. It wasn't there when I'd left. Someone must have dropped it off while I was gone. I ripped it open, expecting some petty complaint about recycling bins or noise levels. Instead, the words "unauthorized Airbnb rental" screamed at me from the top of the page. My stomach dropped. I read on, my hands trembling as I absorbed the accusation. I'd supposedly been renting out my place in violation of HOA rules. Attached were grainy photos of strangers hauling suitcases through the lobby and a screenshot of an Airbnb listing, cozy downtown apartment, with my name plastered across it. Confusion hit first, then panic. I'd never rented my apartment. Hell, I didn't even have an Airbnb account. I stumbled to my laptop, logging into my email to check for any sign of this nonsense. Nothing. Then I squinted at the listing screenshot again. The host email caught my eye. It was my address, but with BNB tacked on to the end. A fake. Someone had gone out of their way to impersonate me. My mind raced. The photos were time-stamped, all from dates I'd been away on business. I yanked open my calendar. Yep, I was in Chicago for a conference when those pictures were taken. But if I wasn't here, who staged this? I dug deeper, fumbling with the photo metadata on my computer. I wasn't an expert, but I could see they'd been snapped with an iPhone, location data scrubbed clean. Too convenient, too precise. A few days later, I was at my brother's place for dinner, still reeling. My sister-in-law was there, her usual smug self, swiping through her iPad to show off vacation pics. That's when I saw it. A flash of a familiar image on her screen. My breath caught. It was one of the HOA photos. A stranger with a suitcase, my building's lobby in the background. My pulse hammered in my ears. She didn't notice me staring, but I knew. She'd framed me, probably leaning on her cozy HOA ties to sell the lie. This wasn't just a misunderstanding, it was a setup, and she was the puppet master. I couldn't believe it. The HOA was accusing me of running an illegal Airbnb, and no matter how much I denied it, they wouldn't listen. Desperate to clear my name, I pulled up the logs from my smart lock, a high-tech door lock that records every entry and exit. The data was crystal clear. No one had entered my apartment during the times those photos were taken. I printed out the logs, circled the relevant dates, and marched into the HOA office, convinced this would end the nonsense. But when I handed over the evidence, the board president barely glanced at it. "We can't verify personal devices," she said dismissively. "For all we know, you could have tampered with this." I stood there, stunned. Tampered? I'd never even thought of that. My stomach churned as I realized they were determined to pin this on me, no matter what proof I had. A week later, another letter arrived. My hand shook as I tore it open. More photos. Different people this time, lugging suitcases through the lobby. The door to my apartment cracked open in the background. The timestamps? Another business trip. I checked my smart lock logs again. Nothing. Not a single entry. But I knew the HOA wouldn't care. They'd already made up their minds. Then came the final blow. A notice demanding I vacate my apartment within 15 days or face legal action. My heart sank. 15 days to pack up my life and leave the home I'd loved for years. I felt sick, helpless, like I was drowning in a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. How had it come to this? With no other choice, I started packing. Each box I sealed felt like a punch to the gut. I'd spent years making this place mine, choosing every piece of furniture, hanging photos of my travels, even painting the walls that perfect shade of blue. Now, it was all being stuffed into cardboard, destined for storage. The worst part? Knowing I was innocent but powerless to stop it. On moving day, I hauled the last of my boxes to the car, my arms aching and my spirit crushed. That's when I saw her, my sister-in-law, leaning against the wall with a smirk that made my blood boil. She didn't even try to hide it. "Not everyone's cut out for a classy place like this," she said, her voice dripping with fake sympathy. I wanted to scream, to tell her I knew what she'd done, but I bit my tongue. I'd deal with her later. For now, I had to survive. As I drove away, the rear-view mirror framing the building I'd once called home, one thought burned in my mind. This isn't over. I moved into my friend's spare room, surrounded by boxes and the heavy burden of everything I'd lost. But instead of surrendering, a fire ignited inside me. I refused to let them win. I'd fight back. One evening at 7:30 p.m., I sat on the floor with my laptop, determined to uncover the truth. I started examining the photos the HOA had used against me. Something felt off. Then I noticed it. The metadata revealed they'd been edited on an iPad. My pulse quickened. This was evidence of tampering. I dug deeper, tracing the IP address from the complaint email. It led straight to my sister-in-law's Wi-Fi. She was the mastermind behind it all. I didn't waste time. I hired a lawyer, a brilliant, no-nonsense woman known for winning tough cases. In our first meeting, I laid it all out. The fake Airbnb listing pinned on me, the doctored photos, and the HOA's stubborn refusal to hear my side. She listened intently, her eyes lighting up. "We've got a strong case," she said confidently. Together, we crafted the lawsuit, alleging wrongful process, violation of my residency rights, and damages to my mental health, reputation, and finances. The evidence piled up, and for the first time in months, I felt a glimmer of hope. A breakthrough came when a neighbor quietly slipped me some inside information. The HOA was run by a tight-knit clique, including my sister-in-law. It was the missing link I needed. I passed it to my lawyer, and she gave a chilling smile. "They're finished," she said. The trial was quick and decisive. The truth unraveled in front of everyone. The judge's voice rang clear. The defendant violated the plaintiff's rights. The evidence of fraud is unmistakable, and the HOA's actions are indefensible. Victory was mine. The HOA was ordered to pay $30,000 to cover my legal fees, moving costs, and emotional distress. The board members involved were ousted, their reputations in tatters. My sister-in-law's scheme fell apart spectacularly. The community turned against her, and even her own family began to pull away. She was unmasked as the deceitful manipulator she'd always been. I'd gotten justice at last. With the money in hand and my name cleared, I could finally walk away from this nightmare with my head held high. After the dust settled from the trial, I sat down to take it all in. Winning the case against my sister-in-law and walking away with $30,000 in compensation felt like a triumph, but it wasn't the kind of victory that left me celebrating. It was bittersweet. The courtroom had ruled in my favor, her lies had been laid bare, and justice had been served. But the weight of what I'd been through lingered. I'd lost more than just time and money. I'd lost trust in someone I once called family. Still, as the days passed, I started to see the bigger picture, and it hit me how much this ordeal had changed me. The betrayal stung because it came from within my own circle. My sister-in-law, someone I'd shared meals and holidays with, had turned against me, thinking she could outsmart me with her scheme. At first, I wanted to lash out, to let the anger take over. But I didn't. I stayed calm, gathered evidence, and pushed forward, even when it felt like the odds were stacked against me. That persistence paid off. The truth came out. Every forged document, every hidden lie, and the judge saw through it all. The $30,000 was a lifeline, helping me cover the legal fees and the cost of starting over, but it couldn't erase the months of stress or the nights I'd spent questioning who I could trust. Looking back, I'm proud of how I handled it. This whole mess taught me something I'll never forget. Sometimes the ones who hurt you aren't strangers, but family. But here's the thing. If you keep your head clear and stay determined, the truth will always stand by your side. My sister-in-law thought she'd won, but her deceit unraveled in the end. That's what kept me going, knowing that justice wasn't just a hope, but something real I could fight for. The money was a bonus. The real win was proving that I wouldn't let betrayal define me. Now, as I move forward, I'm stronger for it. I've learned to listen to my gut, to stand up for myself, and to not let fear or doubt stop me. Life's messy, and family can complicate it even more, but I came out of this with my head held high. The scars are there, sure, but they're proof I didn't give up. That's what I want you to take away from my story. Don't let anyone, not even the ones closest to you, dim your light. Fight for what's right, and the truth will shine through. So, I've got a question for you. Do you think the $30,000 compensation was fair? It helped me get back on my feet, but was it enough for what I endured? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you think. And if you've ever been stabbed in the back by someone you trusted, whether it's family or a friend, share this video to let others know. Justice still exists. Your story could be the push someone needs to stand up and fight.